We had all liked Mr. Winscott. He didn't mind when we used the sledding hill on his property, and he always gave out the best Halloween candy in the neighborhood. So when we heard he'd been taken by the tall man, everyone was really bummed out. You wouldn't have heard of Tall Man, so let me explain. Tall Man has been a legend in my town for decades. Those who claim to have seen him say he's over 9 feet tall, slight, and pale, with an exceedingly polite smile. My dad told me that Tall Man is a collector. He likes things. Dad says his favorite things to take are sad people, empty buildings, and dreams. I have to admit, he's stolen away my dreams more than a few times. When Mr. Winscott didn't show up for church on Sunday, nobody thought it was weird. But then Monday came. He wasn't at work with my dad. People started to whisper. My parents thought it was odd, but not particularly concerning. But then the rumors started. Tall Man had gotten him. A kid in my class even said he had seen Tall Man in Mr. Winscott's house through a window. I told my parents what Jake had seen. They only laughed. Tyler and I biked by Mr. Winscott's place every day after school to get to our friend Rory's house. We never stopped, never even slowed down, not after what Jake had said. But one day, we stayed too late at Rory's. Since we didn't want to bike home in the dark, we called our parents. Tyler was allowed to stay. I wasn't. I tried really hard not to look at Mr. Winscott's cul-de-sac as I biked home. I almost made it. But my curiosity forced a backward glance at the house. The lights were all on. My eyes were drawn to the face in the window immediately. I saw a tall man looking back at me. I choked in a panicked breath. My foot slipped off the pedal as I tried to speed away. I stumbled for only a second, my eyes never leaving the face in the window, before pedaling home as fast as I could. The next morning at school, I told Rory and Tyler about Tall Man. They didn't believe me, of course. They hadn't believed Jake either. I knew I had to show them. We waited until dark and biked to Mr. Winscott's cul-de-sac. Tall Man was there, just like I said, watching us from the window above the front door. It was such a tall front door that I thought Tall Man must have been 10 feet high to see out of the window above it. He was almost smiling, but his expression betrayed a certain displeasure. Tyler fell off his bike. "Holy shit, run!" We did. As soon as we cleared the cul-de-sac, we all started talking over each other. "Did you see the look on his face? We have to tell the cops." The next morning, we went back with more friends. Tall Man was gone. We returned the next day. But again, nothing. We started wondering, maybe he only comes out at night. A few nights later, while waiting for a pizza in Rory's basement, we decided to test our theory. Quietly, we rolled our bikes down the driveway and into the street, torn between hoping Tall Man was there and praying he wasn't. We saw him as soon as we biked into the cul-de-sac. He was still standing there after all. But this time, he was outright frowning. "He's mad," Rory whispered. "He wants us to stay away." "I don't get why he only comes out at night," Tyler muttered, snapping a picture. "Don't," I hissed. "Stop taking pictures. You'll make him madder." "Maybe he watches us in the daytime, too." Rory shrugged. "Maybe we can only see him at night because that's when the porch light comes on and shines right in the window." It was a chilling thought. We decided to test Rory's theory on Saturday, emboldened by the idea that Tall Man could only watch us, never come out. As soon as the sun came up, we biked to Mr. Winscott's. We had to get close, almost all the way to his driveway, but Tyler swore he saw Tall Man still in the window. I squinted with hand binoculars. A few moments later, Tyler suddenly said, "Let's go." He hopped on his bike and pedaled off. We caught up a few blocks later. What the hell was that? I demanded. He was there, but he looked different this time. Different how? Rory asked. I don't know. Angry. Or just wrong somehow. It took days to convince Tyler to go back. Even then, he insisted on bringing his teenage brother, Matt. Matt wasn't impressed with our stories. He didn't believe us. But he came anyway. As soon as we got close enough to see Tall Man in the window, Matt stopped. He squinted. He stared. Then, he got closer. Closer than we ever dared at night. We followed nervously. Matt walked up the driveway, down the stone path, onto the porch. We didn't follow that far. He climbed the porch stairs, right up to the door. Holy fuck, he whispered. Then a few more four-letter words. Suddenly, he was running, sprinting down the porch, down the path, into the street where we waited. What is it? Tyler shouted. Matt caught his breath, his face pale. There is no Tall Man. Call the cops. Now. And he was here. And he was right. It wasn't Tall Man after all. We stayed long enough to watch the police break down the door and cut the rotting corpse of Mr. Winscott from the ceiling, where he had hung himself from a lamp fixture in his foyer. The body had decayed, as if it were melting in the days we had watched it from the road. Mr. Winscott had written no note and made no goodbyes, leaving behind only the sad imprint of a divorced, middle-aged man suffering a sad, well-hidden depression. It was weeks before the town lost interest in the tragic suicide, and months before kids stopped asking us to describe the body in all of its gory detail. Eventually, even Tyler and Rory, and stopped talking about it. Everyone had moved on. Everyone except me. See, there was one detail that always bothered me. One thing I never told Rory or Tyler. It was about the first time I'd seen Tall Man. The time I'd been alone. The thing was, I'd seen Mr. Winscott that night. He'd been sitting alone in his kitchen eating dinner. But I'd seen something else too. In the upstairs bedroom window, there had been an impossibly tall, impossibly pale man staring back at me. And he'd been politely smiling.